My name is Eva Carter, and on Christmas night my uncle stood up and told the whole family I wasn't one of them. Uncle Frank's voice sliced the room. Carter and Sons Builders is for real blood, not charity cases. Laughter, smirks, Kyle leaning back like he owned the table, Rachel sipping her wine like it was victory. Aunt Susan added, "Blood is thicker than water." I smiled, cut my meat, swallowed the sting, but they had no idea. 3 years earlier, when the company was drowning, it wasn't real blood that kept it alive. It was me. Through Summit Tech, I pumped $40 million into their sinking empire. Crazy thing is, they don't even know it's my money keeping this family alive. So I stayed quiet that night, let them hand out titles, play at being leaders. But in my head, the countdown had already started. If they wanted a business for real family only, fine. I'd show them what happens when the outsider they spit on decides to pull the plug. This isn't a story about me being left out. It's a story about how I made them beg, and how I decided whether to save them or let them drown. I was in the office before sunrise. Summit Tech's lobby was empty, the kind of quiet that makes decisions feel cleaner. I told the front desk to hold my calls and took the elevator up. When my floor opened, I walked straight into my office. The city was still blue. Good. I wanted a head start. "Get me Maya," I told my assistant. "Now." She picked up on the first ring. "Morning." "Pull everything," I said. "Today. No exceptions." "All of it? Call the note? Cut every contract?" "Yes, clock starts now." There was a beat. "That means payroll freezes, systems shutting down. They won't last a week." "Do it. Legal first, then bank notices, then couriers." "I'll coordinate with Keller and Ward on notices and with First Harbour on the callable debt," she said. "I'll send you a timeline in an hour." "Good." I opened the Carter and Sons dashboard one last time. Schedules, resource allocations, payroll forecasts, an entire company humming because I'd wired it together. In 30 days, the colour-coded certainty would turn grey. In 10, payroll would blink red. By Friday, vendor credit lines would start asking questions. I wrote the plan on a sticky note, each line like a trigger I was about to pull. T-30, software dies. T-14, payroll bleeds. T-10, cure window closes. T-7, vendors panic. T-3, courthouse bid implodes. I slid the note under my keyboard. When I was 12, Uncle Frank told me I was just an obligation. He said it after a school awards night, keys dangling from his finger, eyes never quite on me. Obligation. I carried the word like a brick in my pocket for years. Not today. Today, I'm just doing business. Maya walked in with a legal pad and that look she gets when the engine's already turning. Bank is drafting the demand. Keller and Ward files at 11. Couriers are ready. Admin access tapers at noon. "What about the shadow layers?" I asked. "Your name never touches theirs," she said. "If they dig, they'll hit walls. If they beg, they'll dial us." "Good. When Frank calls, and he will, route him to voicemail. If Aunt Helen calls, put her through." She hesitated at the door. "They've got the courthouse bid due in 9 days. Our optimizer is the only reason they're competitive." "They can print the PDFs," I said. "They just won't know what they mean." When she left, I opened LinkedIn. Kyle had posted at 1:14 a.m. Tie loosened, arm around Rachel, champagne flutes high. New year, new leadership. Real Carters at the helm. #legacy. Legacy. The word people use when they mean ownership without work. I texted Aunt Helen, "You okay?" Her bubbles popped up instantly. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Are you?" "Working," I typed. "Don't carry it alone," she sent back. I put the phone face down and called Ops. "Start staggered revocations," I said. "Non-critical modules first. Kill bulk export by noon. Lock integrations. Leave read-only dashboards for now. Let them watch the tide go out. A calendar alert pinged, 9:45. Pre-brief with finance. Exposure, timelines, potential blowback. I flipped a slide I'd built months ago labelled contingency, extraction, everything already in place. The difference now wasn't the plan, it was the will. By 10:02, Maya pinged me a link. First harbour, secure portal, demand notice ready. I skimmed it. Concise, neutral, final. Release it, I replied. CC Keller and Ward. Sent. I pictured the email landing in Frank's inbox, the way his face would change once he read the line that mattered. Amount due, immediate, failure to cure, obligation, the brick in my pocket felt lighter. By noon, couriers confirmed delivery. Yard manager signed at 12:18, HQ at 12:23, outside counsel at 12:41. Repetition is respect in business. Give people no opportunity to say they didn't know. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't save. You need to call me right now. Emergency. F. I locked the screen. Keep the plan. Execute the plan. At 2, I walked into the war room with ops, legal and finance. We mapped the collapse on a whiteboard, what shuts off when, who fields which calls. One rule in red, no exceptions. Everyone nodded. The plan was set. The first email from Carter and Sons CFO hit at 3:11. Subject line urgent, body stuffed with partnership and family history, and surely a misunderstanding. Legal answered with 2 sentences and 3 clause numbers. At 3:29, the tone turned angry. We replied with courier stamp times. 4 o'clock, Rachel called. I watched the voicemail transcript scroll. This is insane. Mom is crying. Dad is... Please call me. The word us hung in the air like a balloon with a slow leak. Who is us, exactly? At 5, the sun dropped out of the glass, and the city lights took their places. Maya stood in the doorway. You should go. You promised Aunt Helen's stew. Any movement from the bank? They've confirmed borrower receipt. The clock's running. Then it's working, I said, and finally stood. The elevator doors slid open and I stepped in. The panel was a mirror. For 10 floors I watched my reflection say nothing. Then the doors opened and the cold took a bite out of the day. By the time the sun rose again, my phone already had 12 missed calls. Frank, Rachel, even Aunt Susan. I didn't answer. I poured coffee, read the overnight report, and circled the next step on my sticky note. T-9, vendor pressure. At 7:15, the front desk buzzed. Ms. Carter, your uncle is in the lobby, says it's urgent. Make him wait, I said. Politely. I let him stew down there for 30 minutes. Then I said, send him up. The elevator doors parted and Uncle Frank walked in. His hair was wild, his suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. He scanned the open floor, the teams in headsets, the glass rooms full of people who actually knew what they were doing. Then he saw me. Eva, thank God. He rushed in and dropped into the chair across from me. We need to talk. Do we? I asked. You made it clear who qualifies as family. He swallowed. Listen, something terrible has happened. Our investor pulled out, 40 million, gone overnight, and the software terminated. We can't run payroll, we can't bid, we can't even schedule jobs. The company's going to collapse. That's terrible, I said flatly. You don't understand. 247 families depend on us. You have connections. You can find another investor, just introduce us. I turned my laptop so he could see the Summit Tech portfolio. He leaned in, reading, lips moving. His eyes snagged on the only line that mattered. Summit Tech. Wait, that's you? It's me, I said. I am the investor. I saved your company. I installed the systems, placed the managers, kept the lights on while you played golf. His face drained. That's impossible." He slammed his palm on my desk. "This is the bank's fault. They blindsided us. You can't let them take us down." I leaned closer. "I am the bank, Frank, and I'm done saving you." He blinked. Something behind his eyes broke. The anger sagged into panic. "Ava, I didn't know. I was wrong. I was jealous. Please help us." I held his stare. "2 nights ago, I wasn't family. Today, I own 60% of your company." He swallowed. "Then you'll save us." "No, I'll let Carter and Sons fail, then I'll buy the assets for pennies and build Summit Builders. The employees can stay. You, Kyle, Rachel, you can apply like anyone else, if you qualify." "You can't do that," his voice found a whisper. "We're blood." I stood. "You said family was for real blood only. Congratulations, now you've lost the only family who ever kept you afloat." He buried his face in his hands. For once, he looked small. I didn't touch him. I let silence do what words can't. Finally, he whispered, "Tell me what to do." "Start with the truth. Call your wife. Call your kids. Tell them exactly what happened and who I am. Then apologize for every lie, every insult, every time you cut me out. Do that and maybe we'll talk about new terms." He nodded like a man signing a confession he finally deserved. He walked out slower than he came in. I exhaled. The countdown was mine now. Day 3, vendors began to hold deliveries. Day 4, a concrete supplier asked who'd be writing checks next month. Day 5, the bank's cure window reminder landed like a drumbeat. Day 6, the courthouse project manager called my office, not Frank's, to ask if we could keep the schedule if ownership changed. I didn't answer that question directly. I just said, "We don't miss calendars." Day 7, Kyle posted a video from the yard, hard hat crooked, yelling about new leadership. The comments were quiet. I didn't need to read silence to know what it said. Day 8, Rachel emailed me a sentence I didn't expect. "If this is really you, can we talk? I want to keep my job." I didn't respond. I wanted her to walk into the office and earn it. Day 9, I slept like a human being for the first time in a week. Day 10 hit like a gavel. The cure window closed at 5 p.m. and First Harbour sent the notice I'd been expecting since Christmas. Default. Cross defaults triggered. Collateral to be disposed. Keller and Ward slid the next folder across my desk. Auction procedures, bid protections, timing. I initialed where they told me to because at this point it wasn't about emotion. It was about sequence. Line up financing. Lock the stalking horse bid. Notify the people who matter. "We're going in," I told Maya. She didn't ask if I was sure. "I'll brief the teams and prepare offers for key staff." The auction moved like a storm front you could see from miles away. Grey on the horizon, quiet until the first drop hit the loading dock. Vendors started holding deliveries. Subs called the yard to ask who'd be writing checks next month. Frank's lawyers tried a restraining order, but the paper couldn't outrun the math. An hour later, I got the email that ended the pretense. Summit Tech Holdings has been named winning bidder for designated assets formerly operated as Carter and Sons Builders. I drove to the yard at dusk. The gate hung crooked, like someone had left in a hurry and forgot to close it. A crowd of employees stood in clusters. Carpenters, electricians, project coordinators, the purchasing guy I'd once talked to about squaring mismatched invoices. Their faces carried the same tight question. Do we still have jobs? I climbed onto a flatbed so they could see me. My boots felt too clean for the dust. "Listen up," I said, and the chatter died. "We're not shutting down. We're changing hands. Tomorrow morning you'll receive new offer letters with better pay and real benefits. Your seniority will be honoured. Your work is the reason this place ever had a pulse. From today, no more nepotism. We rise on merit, not bloodlines." A ripple went through them, relief, disbelief, something softer behind the hard hats. A grey-bearded carpenter nodded once and looked at the ground, like he didn't trust his eyes. A woman in a safety vest put a hand to her mouth. The weight shifted off the yard. "Questions?" I asked. A foreman raised his hand. "Name gonna change?" "Yeah," I said. "Summit Builders." They liked that, or maybe they just liked that a name they could pronounce wasn't tied to a family they'd been dodging for years. Either way, the tension broke. People started talking again, this time like they were making plans. Inside the old office, the air smelled like coffee, toner, and panic. File boxes lined the hallway. Rachel stood by the copier with a stack of binders, eyes rimmed red. She straightened when she saw me, then hesitated like she might bolt. "I heard about the offers," she said. "Am I included?" "Yes," I said. "Entry-level project admin. You'll learn scheduling, RFIs, submittals. Real work, if you want it." She stared at the carpet. "I never realized how much you carried us, Ava." "I know," I said quietly. "Now you will." Kyle came in 15 minutes later, loud from the parking lot, swagger covering fear. "This is a joke," he said, jabbing a finger at the new signage template. "You can't just erase our name." "You erased it," I said. "I'm just scraping off the residue." He shoved a box into the reception desk so hard a pen cup tipped. "I know the crews, they'll follow me." "Good news," I said. "They're free to choose, and they have. You're terminated, effective immediately. Security will walk you out." No one touched him. They didn't have to. He grabbed his box and stormed out, muttering something about starting his own company. Out in the yard, a forklift beeped backward and drowned him out like a punchline. By morning, new hard hats, with Summit across the front, were stacked in neat rows in the break room. The payroll provider switched over by lunchtime. Overnight, we upgraded the systems. By morning, the company finally worked the way it should have years ago. The press called. I gave them 8 words and hung up. New owners, same crews, better standards, watch us. At the courthouse site, I found Frank in a loaned hard hat, standing too close to a saw. He saw me and tried to square his shoulders into authority, then thought better of it. The wind kicked dust between us. "I took the foreman position," he said finally. "If you were wondering." I wasn't," I said, "but I'm glad you did." He looked down at his hands, too clean for where we stood. "I don't know everything," he said. "I don't know much, honestly, but I'm willing to learn, if you'll let me." "Listen to your superintendent," I said. "Show up early, leave late, don't cut corners, and don't say, 'That's how we've always done it,' unless you want to get fired by a 26-year-old who actually knows what she's doing." Something almost like a smile found his face. "Fair." The superintendent, a woman with a clipboard and the energy of a small storm, appeared over his shoulder. "Frank, safety audit at 2. If your crew isn't wearing eye protection, I'll write you up and make you read the manual to them out loud, twice." He nodded like a student caught whispering in class. When she left, he exhaled. "She's intense." "She ships work on time," I said. "Intense is cheaper than lawsuits." 2 weeks in, the yard felt different. Trucks idled in lines that made sense. Purchase orders cleared without a manager's cousin rubber stamping them. The estimator who'd been trapped under 3 layers of real family presented a bid review to a room that actually listened. In that room, I sat in the back and took notes. If I spoke, it meant we missed something. A month later, the courthouse client asked for a revised schedule under a compressed timeline after a utilities delay. The old Carter and Sons would have promised the moon, missed every milestone, and blamed weather. Summit Builders ran the optimizer, flagged bottlenecks, shifted crews, and printed a calendar with 3 contingencies and 2 alternate sequences. We didn't promise the moon. We promised the date. We hit the date. Payroll Fridays turned into quiet emails with numbers that made sense. People moved their kids onto the company insurance and pinned paper cards on a corkboard, little league uniforms, dental appointment reminders, new glasses. A welder shook my hand after a shift and said his wife cried when she saw the dental plan. I shook his hand back and told him we were just getting started. Sometimes justice doesn't look like a gavel slamming down. Sometimes it looks like 38 hours worked and 38 hours paid. I didn't see Kyle again. I heard he tried to start a crew and burned a lumberyard bridge in 2 days. He posted a photo with a caption about entrepreneurship and deleted it when no one liked it but his college friend who sells crypto. Rachel kept her head down and learned. I watched her slide a stack of submittals across a table and explain why a spec change would cascade into 5 trades if we weren't careful. The PM nodded and wrote 3 notes. Later in the hall, she stopped me. "Thank you," she said, "for the chance, for the reset." "Earn it," I said, "every week." She nodded. She already knew. Frank kept showing up. He missed a rebar placement the first Friday and got written up by the superintendent without ceremony. Monday morning he was on site at 6:10 checking anchors with a flashlight. I watched from the edge of the slab as he corrected a measurement and called a young guy Sir by mistake. The young guy laughed and called him Frank. Something settled in the air that hadn't been there before. We built real programs, mentorships, safety incentives, scholarships, things that actually respected people's work. It felt less like we were building a company and more like we were unbending steel that had been bent the wrong way for 20 years. 3 months in, Summit Builders posted a clean profit. Not a headline, just a black number at the bottom of a page earned by people whose names I could say without looking at a chart. We brought coffee and donuts to the yard that Friday. Someone dragged a speaker onto a pallet stack and played Springsteen because clichés are clichés for a reason. The crews laughed too loud. It sounded like a release valve. I climbed that flatbed again. "We're not perfect," I said. "We'll miss things and fix them, but no favourites, no special passes because you share a last name with the person signing cheques. Nobody here signs cheques alone anyway. We sign them together, with work." The grey-bearded carpenter lifted his coffee. "To work," he said. "To work," the yard answered. I spotted Frank at the edge of the crowd, safety glasses perched crooked on his cap. He didn't try to speak. He just nodded once, a small, careful thing. I returned it. Driving back to the office, I passed the old Carter & Sons sign leaning against a chain-link fence, paint peeling like a bad promise. The letters looked like they wanted to let go. I didn't stop. I didn't need a souvenir. That afternoon, Aunt Susan called. I let it go to voicemail and listened to her say she never meant what she said at Christmas, that she was just repeating a phrase. Words matter. Repetition is a choice. I deleted the message. Aunt Helen texted a photo of her soup pot. "I'll keep dinner warm," I replied, on my way at 7. Before I left, I walked through the new operations centre, a room that used to be a vanity lounge with a leather couch that screamed family money and never earned it. Now it held 6 desks, 4 whiteboards, and a shelf of safety manuals with dog-eared pages. A young scheduler traced a finger across a timeline and caught a clash 2 weeks out. I watched him pick up a phone and solve it before it became a problem. That's justice too. Problems that never get the chance to hurt the wrong people. On my desk, the original sticky notes still sat tucked under the keyboard. T-30, T-14, T-10, T-7, T-3. I added one more line with a pen, T+90. We're still here. I flipped off the light and left the note where it was. Some reminders you keep, not because you need them, but because they mark who you decided to be when it counted. Sunday dinner at Aunt Helen's was simple: roast chicken, potatoes, a pie cooling by the window. That night it felt like the first meal I'd earned without apology. I walked in and she hugged me longer than usual, like she knew what the past months had cost. "You look lighter," she said. "Maybe I am," I answered, and for once it wasn't a line. We sat, just the two of us. She poured iced tea, asked about my week, didn't bring up Frank, didn't bring up Summit Builders. That silence was her gift. She let me be more than the fight. Halfway through dinner, she touched my hand. "You know, you showed them what family really means." I looked at her. "Family's not about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them." She smiled, eyes bright. "You've always shown up." We cleared the plates, and she insisted on sending me home with leftovers because you forget to feed yourself when the work starts to behave. I didn't argue. The kitchen smelled like butter and pepper and something I hadn't felt in years. Peace earned instead of borrowed. On the porch, she squeezed my arm. "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." For the first time in years, the word family didn't taste bitter. It tasted earned. I drove home past the courthouse build. The cranes slept like tall animals against the sky. I slowed at the corner and watched two of our night crews lay out cones, joke softly, then get back to work. They didn't look up at my car. They didn't need to. The point of leadership is making sure they don't have to think about you to do it right. Back at my place, I set Aunt Helen's pie on the counter and leaned against the sink. The apartment felt different, not bigger, just honest. I could finally breathe without counting who would try to take the air away. Justice didn't roar. It whispered through steady paychecks and respect restored. It moved in small ways. An insurance card in a wallet, a safety meeting that actually made a difference, a signature on a check that meant the person signing it had earned the right to hold the pen. And maybe that was the real revenge. Not just stripping them of pride, but forcing them to see what they'd thrown away. Sometimes people have to lose everything before they understand what they had. If you were me, would you forgive them? Or let them live with the weight of what they did? Comment below. And if you believe justice isn't always written in bloodlines, hit like and subscribe, because there are more stories like mine waiting to be told.